Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're talking about a tiny piece of tech that has totally changed the game for makers, students, and creators all over the world. Yep, we're diving into the Raspberry Pi. I know, it sounds a little bit like science fiction, doesn't it? But get this, it's real. Imagine a whole actual computer that's small enough to fit in your palm, but powerful enough to run software, control a robot, or even be the brains of your smart home. That's exactly what the Raspberry Pi is. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with what a Raspberry Pi actually is, then we'll peek under the hood to see how it works. We'll look at how crazy simple it is to get started, and then explore its massive impact, from classrooms to incredible real-world projects. And finally, we'll talk about what all this means for you. So let's jump right in.
Okay, first things first. What in the world is this thing? Let's nail down a simple definition.
At its core, a Raspberry Pi is what's known as a single-board computer. It was originally created in the UK with this amazing goal: make computing cheap enough for anybody to use. And they did it. Popular models often sell for around $35. And this isn't some simple little chip. It runs a full operating system from a micro SD card. You just plug in a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse, and boom, you've got yourself a working desktop computer. So how does it pull all that off on one tiny little board? Let's take a quick tour of the key components. And don't worry, this is way simpler than it looks. Right at the heart of it all, you've got the processor, the CPU. You can just think of this as the brain of the whole operation. It's what runs all the programs, crunches the numbers, it does all the heavy lifting. So where does it keep everything? Right here, this little micro SD card slot. This basically acts like the hard drive on your laptop. The operating system, all your files, your programs, everything lives on that tiny card. And of course, you've got all the other essentials you'd expect. There's a GPU to handle all the graphics you see on the screen. The RAM is the short-term memory that keeps your apps from getting sluggish. You've got your standard USB ports for a keyboard and mouse, an HDMI port to hook up to any TV or monitor, and of course the power input to bring the whole thing to life. But this right here is the Raspberry Pi's superpower. These are the GPIO pins, and that just stands for General Purpose Input/Output. This is what makes a Pi so much more than just a small computer. These pins let it talk to the physical world. They can control things like LEDs, read data from sensors, or make motors spin. This is the key to unlocking all those amazing projects we're about to see. Okay, so we know what's on the board, but how hard is it to actually get one up and running? Well, it's almost ridiculously easy. Let me just walk you through it. Honestly, it's pretty much just plug and play. You pop in the micro SD card with the operating system on it, you connect an HDMI cable to a monitor, you plug in your keyboard and mouse, and last, you connect the power cord. That's it. It just boots right up. It really is that simple to get started. And that simplicity, combined with its super low cost, is exactly why the Raspberry Pi has totally revolutionized education. It's completely changing how students learn about science and tech. Think about it. Instead of just learning to code on a screen, students can write a few lines of Python to make a real LED light blink. They can build a little robot that drives around, or create a weather station that actually tells them the temperature in the room. It takes these big, abstract ideas like programming and engineering and makes them real, tangible, and honestly, a lot more fun. And its use is definitely not just stuck in the classroom. Oh no. The very same board is being used to build powerful, real-world solutions that people rely on every single day. For makers and hobbyists, the sky's the limit. People build amazing home automation systems to control their lights from their phone, or they turn a Pi into a tiny media center. That's a perfect use for it because it uses so little power you can just leave it on all the time. Oh, and of course, people build incredible retro gaming machines to play all the classics. And don't think for a second that this is just a toy. The Pi is more than powerful enough for some really serious work. It can be the brain behind a custom voice assistant, it can act as a cheap and cheerful desktop for browsing the web, or it can even be used in smart farming, where its small size makes it perfect for creating a whole network of sensors out in a field. So, we've seen what it is, how it works, and just a little taste of what it can do. But what's the big picture here? What does all this really mean for you? Well, here's the most important takeaway. The Raspberry Pi proves that powerful technology doesn't need to be crazy expensive. It breaks down that barrier. It gives everyone, whether you're a student in a classroom or an inventor in a garage, the tools to learn, to create, and to build things that can solve actual problems. It really is just one tiny board, but it holds a nearly infinite universe of ideas. It opens the door for so many people to learn, experiment, and create things that just weren't possible before. So the only question left is, what will you build?